Welcome to LOL Reddit Stories, where we comb through all of the bullshit on Reddit to bring you the worst bullshit on Reddit. The following stories were all found on the subreddit thathappened, which features 100% true stories that really, actually, most certainly, definitely happened. This post will focus on people who are simply the best, selfless heroes, good Samaritans, defenders of the common man. We hope these stories will help you to realize that at the end of the day, it's the little victories in life that truly count. Enjoy.
Beautiful person. Today I went to Dunkin' Donuts and saw a clearly homeless guy sitting on the side of the road and picking up change. Eventually I saw him stroll into Dunkin'. As he was counting his change to buy something, I began to get super annoying and talk to him over and over again, even when he didn't really want to talk. Since he had maybe $1 in change, I bought him a coffee and bagel and asked him to sit down with me. He told me a lot about how people are usually very mean to him because he's homeless, how drugs turned him into the person he hated. He lost his mom to cancer. He never knew his dad. And he just wants to be someone his mom would be proud of, along with another hour's worth of conversation. This lovely man's name was Chris, and Chris was one of the most honest and sincere people I've ever met. After realizing I really need to get back to class, Chris asked me to wait so he can write something down for me. Handing me a crumpled up receipt, he apologized for having shaky handwriting, smiled, and left. I opened his note, and this was it. Quote, I wanted to kill myself today. Because of you, I now do not. Thank you, beautiful person.
End quote. Unfathomable. Okay, everyone. I got a really sad story that legitimately made me so depressed and unhappy because I couldn't believe it. This is a serious issue facing women. And whoever reads this whole post, please post your thoughts. I was hanging out at my favorite bar last night. I had like 2 beers, and I was talking to my friend Emily who worked there. I told her I was going outside for a cigarette. This is where I met a lovely woman who was outside having a smoke as well. Me and her get to talking, and she seems very interested in me, so I bought her some chili cheese fries to split. We're both flirting, and I feel as if I could get lucky tonight. We down a couple more drinks and she asks if I want to go back to her place. I say I would love to. So we get our bills and she goes to the bathroom. I take a look at her bill and I see that she's had 4 drinks before I started talking to her, putting her at 9 in total. She comes back and we leave for her place. I start thinking that this could be a mistake and I don't want to take advantage of a girl who's drunk, but I tried to rationalize it because I was drunk myself. We approached her place when she turns to me and says, "You want to know something?" I said, "Yeah, of course." She says, "Last month I was raped, and I have been trying to cope, but I don't know what to do." This then led to us talking about what happened, and at that point I knew it would be fucking awful if I tried to pursue anything. She invited me in. I immediately told her I would be uncomfortable if we did anything. She asked me to tuck her into bed, so I did that, and I gave her a peck on the head, then I left. I immediately went straight back to the bar and proceeded to drink my ass off because I can't fathom things like this can happen. And it makes me so sick and sad that in an age where women are so strong and even with men, that men can feel they can take advantage of them like that.
This is a bus. That is a baby. I'm on the bus home and a baby is crying. I watch her mother try bouncing her, playing movies on the phone, the pacifier, anything she can think of, to no avail. Sometimes babies have bad days. That's what life is like when you're not even 2 years old. I hear the man sitting on the seat complaining, getting louder every time. Oh, come on. Geez, really? Finally, he says, "Could you get any louder?" at a volume that travels far enough to make my temper flare and send my blood coursing through my veins. I'm fired up now. I turn to him and calmly say, "Sir, this is a public bus. That is a baby crying. I'm not sure what you expect to happen." He looks me in the eyes for a split second before continuing to look at his phone and says, "Somebody needs to make it quiet." I let it be. The baby cries again. The man complains again. Again, I am calm. Sir, this is a public bus. There are no quiet regulations on a bus. He refuses to look at me, stares at his phone, and gets off at the next stop. My hands are shaking, but my temper is contained, and that mother doesn't have to put up with the ignorance of that man while trying to comfort a child. I will never understand the lack of compassion and the nauseating entitlement I see far too often in this world. The more I learn about myself, the less inclined I am to stay quiet in the face of things that I feel wrong.
It seemed so little. I put my carry-on in the luggage compartment and sat down in my assigned seat. It was going to be a long flight. I'm glad I have a good book to read. Perhaps I will get a short nap, I thought. Just before takeoff, a line of soldiers came down the aisle and filled all the vacant seats, totally surrounding me. I decided to start a conversation. "Where are you headed?" I asked the soldier seated nearest to me. "Petawawa. We'll be there for 2 weeks for special training, and then we're being deployed to Afghanistan." After flying for about an hour, an announcement was made that sack lunches were available for $5. It would be several hours before we reached the east, and I quickly decided the lunch would help pass the time. As I reached for my wallet, I overheard a soldier ask his buddy if he planned to buy lunch. "No, that seems like a lot of money for just a sack lunch. Probably wouldn't be worth $5. I'll wait till we get to base." His friend agreed. I looked around at the other soldiers. None were buying lunch. I walked to the back of the plane and handed the flight attendant a $50 bill. "Take a lunch to all those soldiers." She grabbed my arms and squeezed tightly. Her eyes wet with tears, she thanked me. My son was a soldier in Iraq. It's almost like you're doing it for him. Picking up 10 sacks, she headed up the aisle to where the soldiers were seated. She stopped at my seat and asked, "Which do you like best, beef or chicken?" "Chicken," I replied, wondering why she asked. She turned and went to the front of the plane, returning a minute later with a dinner plate from first class. "This is your thanks." After we finished eating, I went again to the back of the plane. Soon after, I returned to my seat. I saw the flight captain coming down the aisle, looking at the aisle numbers as he walked. I hoped he wasn't looking for me, but noticed he was looking at the numbers only on my side of the plane. When he got to my row, he stopped. He smiled, held out his hand, and said, "I want to shake your hand." Quickly unfastening my seatbelt, I stood and took the captain's hand. With a booming voice, he said, "I was a soldier and I was a military pilot. Once, someone bought me a lunch. It was an act of kindness I never forgot." I was embarrassed when applause was heard from all the passengers. Later, I walked to the front of the plane so I could stretch my legs. A man who was seated about 6 rows in front of me reached out his hand, wanting to shake mine. He left another $25 in my palm. When we landed, I gathered my belongings and started to deplane. Waiting just inside the airplane door was a man who stopped me, put something in my shirt pocket, turned, and walked away without saying a word. Another $25! Upon entering the terminal, I saw the soldiers gathering for their trip to the base. I walked over to them and handed them $75. "It will take you some time to reach the base. It will be about time for a sandwich. God bless you." 10 young men left that night feeling the love and respect of their fellow travelers. As I walked briskly to my car, I whispered a prayer for their safe return. These soldiers were giving their all for our country. I could only give them a couple of meals. It seemed so little. Mr. Spoons. There's this homeless man that comes in when I work, and I'll buy him some coffee and just sit and talk with him. He's always told me people call him Mr. Spoons. Well, this morning there was no one else in the restaurant, so I gave him multiple spoons, and he broke out into a full concert, singing and playing spoons just for me. Just to see the smile it brought to his face has made my day. Wow, what a huge load of bullshit. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't, it's fine. We don't actually care because we're Navy SEAL lawyers who made it big on Wall Street. We don't need this. It doesn't actually matter. We only made this because we were bored, SMH. Thank you.
Kama